Hold your breath, okay? I'm kneeling in the mud, and the blood on my hands isn't mine. It's warm, sticky. It smells like copper and shit and pine needles. There's a man, what's left of him, sprawled face down in front of me. His skull caved in so deep I can see the pale, pulpy meat inside. My right hand's still gripping the rock I used to do it. It feels like it's welded to my fingers. Somewhere out in the dark, someone's laughing. They're closing in on me. I take a breath. The cold air slices my lungs raw. My heart's not pounding anymore. That was hours ago. Now it's steady. I feel calm. A branch cracks behind me. I turn my head just enough to see a shadow move between the trees. Another one follows. I don't know how many there are, but I know what they've done. And I know I'm going to kill every single one of them before sunrise. It was supposed to be a reset for both of us. Me and Claire. 2 days off grid, no cares, no responsibilities. Just a tent, a camp stove, and tequila. The outdoors is kind of our thing, especially when life gets hectic, and we need to not give a shit about anyone or anything. We'd been to this forest a handful of times before, so I was surprised when Claire picked it. But she said she had found a better spot on one of her solo hikes a month ago, more remote, which she preferred. She hated making small talk with other campers. She sent me the coordinates and decided to meet up there since this place was in the middle of us. I got there first, parked at the trailhead, hiked the 2 miles in hopes I didn't forget to put something in my pack. I wanted to claim the spot before the sun dipped too low, so I'd have time to set up. The air was sharp and clean, the pine needles muffling every step. The place was already working its magic and melting my stress away. I'd just finished pitching the tent when I heard footsteps crunching on gravel back by the trailhead. I looked over my shoulder and saw him, a man leaning against a wide tree. Late 30s, skin like overcooked leather, eyes too still.
How you doing? You settling in or heading out?
Just got here and we're setting up. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. Thought you might be heading out is all.
He said nothing after that, but he also didn't leave. We've been here before, and there's other spots closer to the entrance. When I was coming in, they were all still open. He nodded, but still didn't move. I started to get the prickly sensation, that part of yourself that quickly analyzes the last minute of interactions. The automatic gauge that switches on so you're ready for however the dice rolls. I didn't say anything, just stared back. If he wanted to be a weirdo about this, so could I. Finally, he spat into the dirt and said,
Have a nice day.
And walk off. I stood there watching, making sure he kept going. If he noticed me watching, he didn't say anything. But I also didn't care if he knew what I was doing or not. My eyes followed his back until the forest swallowed him from view. By the time the tent was up and a small fire was snapping in the pit, I'd convinced myself he was just a local creep with too much time on his hands. Claire was still an hour out, maybe more, so I sat by the flames, sipping from the flask I'd brought. That's when I heard the click. It was close, clean, not a twig snap, not an animal. I sat up straighter. It was familiar, but I couldn't place it. Then I heard it again. Click. A camera shutter. I whipped around, scanning the tree line. Nothing moved except the shadows. I shook it off. Told myself it's not that crazy to think someone would be taking pictures out here. Place was spectacular, I'll give Claire that. But when I went to zip up the tent later, I saw it, half buried in the dirt near the tent stake. A Polaroid. It was me, sitting by the fire. Claire was never late. If she said, "I'll be there at 6, she'd show up at 5:50. By the time it hit 7:30, the rock in my gut told me she wasn't coming. The forest was different at night. The air heavier. Every rustle sounded like it was coming straight for me. The fire had burned low, my shit was packed, and I was feeding it twigs and was ready to leave the minute I saw Claire. I thought about hiking out of here. The only thing stopping me was knowing there was about a half dozen ways she could get to me. What if I went, to only get to the lot and see her car, but not her? I ran through scenarios in my head, and too many times the chances of us missing each other and wasting hours came up. All the while time was passing. I told myself she'd twisted an ankle, stopped to rest, maybe turned around and gone back to her car because she forgot something, and I'd see her walk up with a "don't hate me" look. But then I remembered the man at the trailhead, and the Polaroid. By 9, I couldn't sit still. I grabbed my flashlight, make sure my knife was in my pocket, and started walking back toward the trail. My beam cut through the dark in jerky slices, every branch throwing a shadow big enough to make my heart jump. I was about a half mile in when I saw something pink lying in the dirt. I already knew even before I saw the little cartoon camping cats. Claire's scarf. It was stiff with something dark. The closer I got, the more the smell hit, metallic and sharp. My stomach clenched. I knew, before I even found her, I knew. She was just off the path, slumped against the base of a tree, head tilted at an unnatural angle. Her face was a ruin, skin mottled with bruises, swollen eyes open. Her jacket was shredded like someone had taken a blade to it. I dropped to my knees, reaching out, and that's when I heard it. Laughter. Low, male, and something told me not to call out.
Pretty little camper. Found your friend, huh?
A voice from somewhere in the dark trees. A hunting knife. Then it was gone. It was him, the man from earlier. The laughter came again, this time from a different direction. And then another voice, rougher, closer.
Run.
I killed the flashlight. They expected me to run, to make noise so they could track me. Instead, dropped to the ground, belly scraping against the damp pine needles, and pressed myself into the shadows between 2 trees. My breath felt like it was rattling loud enough to give me away. They were out there. 2 of them, maybe more. I could hear the crunch of boots moving slow, deliberate, like they weren't in a hurry, like they knew how this was going to end. I clamped a hand over my mouth and tried to think. The camp was behind me, trail just ahead. The stream cut through the clearing. If I could get to the water, maybe I could flow with the current, buy myself some time. A beam of light swept across the forest floor 10 feet away. I froze.
See, I told you she'd find the body.
The second one hissed a laugh. I shifted an inch, trying to spot them without moving my head too much. 2 silhouettes now, backlit by their own flashlights. One tall, bulky shoulders, the other wiry and restless, both holding blades that caught the light in quick flashes. The tall one raised something to his mouth, a whistle, and blew a short, sharp note. Somewhere deeper in the woods, an answering whistle came back. There were more. I crawled backward, taking care of where I placed my hands and feet, keeping my body low, my eyes on the shifting cones of light. My hand brushed something cold in the dirt. Blood. Her blood had flowed down to pool under me. I closed my eyes for a moment. I couldn't think about that right now. The wiry one's beam suddenly cut left, and the light landed square on me.
There she is!
Adrenaline hit like a gut punch. I bolted, crashing through the underbrush, branches slapping my face, my boots slipping in the mud. They didn't shout. They didn't run all out. They followed in a steady, measured pace, practiced. And then I saw it. My tent. The fire pit still smoldering, and just beyond it, hanging from low branches. Polaroids. Dozens. I didn't think. I just ran. Claire filled my vision as different angles of her battered face rushed past me. I tore through the clearing, past the tent, into the dark. My legs burned, my lungs screamed, but all I could hear was that steady rhythm of boots behind me. Not frantic, not desperate. The bastards were steady. The stream came up fast, a black ribbon glinting under the sliver of moon. I splashed into it, the icy water biting straight through my jeans, and stumbled upstream, each step a sucking pull against the mud. Behind me, the whistle started again. Short bursts. 3 in a row, answered by 2 more farther off. They were talking to each other, coordinating. I picked up speed, half running, half waiting, until I spotted a fallen log stretched across the water. I scrambled onto it, hard in my throat, and climbed up the opposite bank into thicker trees. For a second, just a second, it was silent. Then something whistled past me, just to my right. Not a whistle this time, a bullet. The crack echoed a heartbeat later. Bark exploded from a trunk next to my head. I hit the ground and scrambled, desperate to put anything solid between me and where that shot came from. My knee slammed into a root hard enough to send pain up my thigh, but I kept going until I found a rotting stump to duck behind. Footsteps approached, lighter this time, quicker. One set, moving ahead of the others. I held my breath as a figure slipped through the trees. Not one of the 2 I'd seen before. Younger, leaner, a rifle slung lazily over his shoulder. He was grinning like he'd just been given the punchline to a joke. He passed within 10 feet of me, close enough that I could see the mud caked into his laces. And then, a distant howl, but it wasn't an animal, broke through the night. The boy with the rifle stopped, listening. Whatever it meant, it sent him moving in the opposite direction, quick and purposeful. I waited until the sound of his boots was gone, before I crawled out from behind the stump. My teeth were chattering from the cold and adrenaline, but I kept my mouth shut so the sound wouldn't carry. For the first time since I'd found Claire's body, I let myself believe I might actually get out of this. Then I saw it, pinned to the bark of the tree in front of me. It was another Polaroid. This one wasn't of Claire. It was of me. And I knew, from the angle, I'd been standing right in front of her when it was taken. The Polaroid slid off the tree and into my hand, my fingers numb from more than the cold. That's when I heard it. The crunch of boots, this time from both sides. They'd boxed me in. I backed away, scanning for a gap, but the beams of 2 flashlights were already slicing through the dark ahead. And then another from behind. A shape burst into view between the trees. Not running, not hiding, just walking toward me like I wasn't worth the effort of a sprint. A man I hadn't seen before. Square jaw, heavy-set, carrying a hatchet dangling from one gloved hand.
Don't make this harder than it has to be,
he said, his voice calm, almost polite. A shadow moved in the periphery. The wiry one from before, grinning wide enough to show teeth. In his other hand, he held a length of rope. And then I saw what was between them. A man, maybe another hiker, maybe someone they'd been playing with earlier, on his knees, hands bound behind his back. His head jerked up, eyes wild, mouth gagged with what looked like a torn t-shirt. Blood streaked down his temple. The heavy-set man put a hand on his shoulder.
Been real fun,
he said, almost cheerfully. The wiry one stepped forward, grabbed the hiker's hair, and wrenched his head back. The knife in his hand caught the light. I wanted to move, to scream, to do something. But my legs wouldn't obey. The blade went in fast, right under the jaw, driving up into the skull. There was a muffled gurgle, then a wet sound as the wiry one yanked it free. A spray of blood misted the air, hot enough that I could smell the metallic scent from 10 feet away. The hiker toppled forward, twitching, the ground sucking at the pooling mess under his face. I made a sound, something between a gasp and a choke, and that was all it took. The heavy-set man's head snapped toward me.
There she is.
2 sets of boots closed in from behind. A hand clamped down on my shoulder, fingers digging deep enough to bruise, and another tore the knife from my hand. I didn't even remember how it got there. The wiry one stepped close, his breath sour against my cheek.
Your turn.
They didn't kill me. Not yet. They didn't blindfold me. I almost wish they had. I could see everything. The flicker of the campfire, the glint of steel on the hatchet, the way the wiry one never stopped smiling. They'd staked me to a tree, arms pulled back and bound so tight my hands were already going numb. Somewhere in the dark, the stream kept rushing, but it was drowned out by their voices.
Think she's gonna last longer than Claire?
The wiry one asked, tossing a twig into the flames.
Claire lasted longer than you thought.
The one from the trail replied.
She fought like hell.
I clenched my jaw until it hurt. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing my face change. The one from the trail crouched in front of me.
You know what I like about people like you? You think you're different. You think you're smarter and can just keep your mouth shut and your eyes forward and maybe we'll get bored.
He leaned closer, his pupils swallowing the firelight.
We never get bored.
Somewhere behind him, the younger one, the one with the rifle, was humming to himself as he skinned something on a tarp. I didn't want to know, but given what I do for a living, I already recognized the forearm. Every so often, he'd drop a chunk of meat into the fire. The fat hissed when it hit the coals. The sound of the meat sizzing and the familiar scent of barbecue made my stomach roll. It took everything I had to keep vomit from spewing from my mouth. The heavy-set man came over and squatted down so we were eye level. His gloves were off now, his hands scarred and nicked from years of doing exactly this.
You seem like the strong type. So let me give you some advice. I don't care if you scream. Screaming just means we're doing it right. But I do care if you make me work for it. Don't make me work for it.
Then, shark quick, he slapped me. Hard enough my teeth sliced the inside of my cheek. But I didn't feel it. The rage that bubbled up numbed the pain and the fear. They all chuckled. They were having so much fun, I started laughing too. They didn't like that. The heavy-set one pulled my hair back, and before he could ask, I said, I chose the bear but got a man anyway. And they thought that was hilarious. The heavy-set man stood brushing dirt off his jeans.
Soon, sweetheart.
They walked away, leaving me alone with the firelight and the smell of burning meat. My wrists were raw against the rope. Every instinct screamed at me to keep waiting for an opening. But something inside me was already shifting. I stopped struggling against the ropes hours ago. That's what they wanted. Someone who wasted all their energy before the real fun started. But while they talked and laughed around the fire, I studied every twist in the cord biting into my wrists. It wasn't standard rope. It was braided paracord. Strong. Light. I'd tied and untied it more times than I could count. The wiry one was telling the younger guy about a client coming in next week. Rich. European. Said he wants something that screams American wilderness. They all smirked like it was a private joke.
Fuck, I'm late. Just make sure the chief gets his cut before it's over. Don't need him trying to babysit what we do. And collect the bodies before heading out. Last time it was a mess.
With those lovely words, he walked off. It clicked then. This wasn't random. This wasn't even personal. It was business. I twisted my left wrist hard, feeling the knot start to roll against my palms. Pain shot up my arm as skin tore, but the give was there. A ghost of a smile touched my lips. I kept pulling and twisting, wanting the cord to bite into my skin, because blood is a lubricant. And just like that, I slipped my hands free. I didn't have time to be happy about that because the wiry one came over with a metal canteen.
Water. We keep our merchandise hydrated.
He tipped it toward my mouth, and that was my opening. This was it. I had to be quick and precise. It's a damn good thing I'm both. I spat the water back at his face and yanked my right arm free. Before he could shout, my hand shot to his throat. My fingers found the gap just above his collarbone, the suprasternal notch. I drove in hard. The trauma would be instant. Damage to the trachea, major blood vessels, and nerves had him staggering back, choking. I was on my feet before the heavy-set man turned in his chair. He reached for his hatchet, but I was already moving. I ducked low, hatchet clattering across the dirt as I wrapped my arm around his knee and twisted his ass right off that chair. He slammed to the ground, and I let his momentum help hard enough to feel the ligament give way. By the time he started screaming, I was moving again. I didn't stop to grab the hatchet. I knew from the way they operated they'd have more weapons within reach. The younger one with the rifle swung it toward me, but I was inside his range before he could aim. My palm crashed up into his nose, and I felt the crack as his head snapped back. I grabbed the knife he was cutting meat with and sliced his throat. He collapsed like a sack of shit. The wiry one was still wheezing on the ground, scratching at his neck, when I grabbed the hatchet. I walked over to him, keeping a lookout because I don't know where Trail Guy was. I stood over him for just a second. He shook his head, then swung the hatchet down at the same time he held up his hand. The hatchet went through 2 fingers before lodging into his skull. And for the first time since Claire didn't show up, I smiled. People think a fight is about size, power, which is only true if those 2 people have the same skill set. If not, always put your money on the one who's trained. They didn't know that Thursday nights weren't wine bars for me. They were bare mats, sweat on the floor, and the sharp snap of joints locking. Martial arts isn't about meeting strength with strength. It's about turning their body into a lever you can break. And as an ER doctor in a large city, you stop thinking of the human body as a person. It's plumbing and wiring. You know which lines to cut, which switches to flip. That's the part nobody talks about. Once you've saved enough lives, you know exactly how to take one. The heavy-set one was trying to get up when turned around. Bad choice. I drove him into the dirt, twisted and felt the knee pop under my weight. He was on his side, sucking in air and clutching his knee when I knelt beside him. "Where'd your buddy go?" I asked. He spat at me. Beads of sweat were forming on his forehead from the pain. The wind shifted, carrying smoke from the fire away, and I caught something else. Under the wood smoke, food cooking, the stench of shit. I stood, and for the first time noticed their camp. It looked like something out of a nightmare carnival. 2 gutted tents flapping in the wind, a spit turning over the fire, meat roasting, but not the kind you buy in a store, and the pigs, dozens of them, penned tight, their eyes reflecting the flames like marbles. The pigs snorted, restless, like they smelled the violence that hung in the air. What the fuck? That's when I heard it. Boots on pine needles, deliberate, too close. I spun, too late. The trail guy, the one who spoke like he owned the forest. He came at me with a hunting knife, swinging sloppy but fast. I ducked, felt the blade whisper past my ear, then drove my shoulder into his gut. He grunted, hot spit hitting my cheek as he grabbed a fistful of my hair and yanked me down. We hit the ground hard. My lungs burned. He straddled me, the knife edge flashing down toward my throat. My hands shot up, caught his wrist, every muscle screaming. He was stronger. I felt my grip slipping. Desperate, my fingers scraped the dirt, closed around something heavy. A rock. I didn't think. I swung. The crack was sickening. His head snapped sideways, but he didn't drop. He snarled, teeth red, and shoved down harder. I swung again, and again, and again. I screamed my hatred and heartache, and I kept going, even after he stopped moving, until the fight bled out of him, until there was nothing left but meat and bone. And that's when I realized. I was kneeling in the mud and pines, the blood on my hands not mine, with the squeals of pigs and the smell of shit all around me. The camp reeked. The smell was bad enough, but the sound of them chewing was worse. I got up, stumbled forward, and bent double, vomit burning my throat. When I wiped my mouth, I noticed the heavy-set man dragging himself across the dirt, his ruined leg twisting uselessly behind him. He was headed towards the rifle. I ran, kicked him in the head, and snatched up the gun. He went slack and was out cold. I stood there, chest heaving. The rifle felt heavy in my hands. My legs wanted to run, just run. Leave the horror behind, get to the road. Find a ranger, a phone, anyone. I could leave. I should leave. But my eyes drifted from him to the pen. The pigs. Their eyes glistened in the firelight, reflecting orange and red like embers. They pressed against the wood slats, restless, waiting. It wasn't a far leap to figure out why they had a pig pen in the middle of the forest. I dragged him by the arms, my back screaming with every pull. His dead weight was too much. Halfway there, I dropped him. Fuck! I couldn't get him over by myself. That's when his eyes flicked open. He looked around, then landed on me. He smirked, even with blood leaking from his split lip. I leveled the rifle, aimed low, and squeezed. The dirt by his other leg exploded. Forest floor debris scattered and bit his skin. He flinched.
You crazy bitch. Go on then, shoot me. You're already fucked.
He spat. I ignored him. What are they eating? I asked. He smiled.
Leftovers.
I lifted the rifle again. Get in that chair. He looked to the left. He opened his mouth and I shot again. Missed. But he flinched, then laughed.
You already got everyone. Just walk away. Once you're back in the parking lot, make your calls. The chief will take care of you. Just tell him everything you know and walk away.
Something in the way he said chief made me pause. I tilted my head. Chief? You mean the police chief, as in the one you're connected with? The smirk was answer enough. I walked right up to him and shot his foot. He howled. The pigs went into a frenzy. Get your ass up on that chair. He screamed and spit and pulled. It took a while, but he got his ass up there.
They'll be back soon. This is your only chance. Walk away while you still can.
I stepped closer. Close enough to see the sweat sliding down his temple, the flicker of fear under the bravado. Then I lifted the rifle high and drove the butt into his face. Bone cracked, teeth flew, and his head snapped back. His arms flailed, his weight helping the momentum pull him back. He toppled over the low fence. The pigs screamed and surged, a tide of flesh and hunger. The pigs were on him instantly. Screams tore from his throat, high and animalistic, then cut short with a wet rip. I didn't look away, not once. When it was over, I walked into the trees. The word chief kept echoing in the back of my head. Every step I took, the plan solidified. Get to Claire. Cover her body so the animals couldn't get at her. Hike out before dawn. Call the state police, the FBI, every news station I can find. Drop this hellhole into the spotlight so bright, not even the chief could bury it. I could almost hear the sirens and see the headlines. And then, crack! The impact hit before the sound registered. Searing hot metal punching into my side, deep under the ribs. I staggered, one hand pressing into the wound. Warmth flooded my palm. The doctor part of me kicked in automatically. Low angle, left side. The bullet had likely shredded the spleen, maybe clipped the kidney. I likely had minutes. Boots crunched leaves behind me.
That's the thing about plans. They fall apart the second I'm out of sight.
A voice steady and confident. I turned. He stepped into the light spilling through the trees. Uniform crisp, badge catching the faint glow from the ambient light. The chief. He tipped his hat.
Hell of a run you gave us. Nobody's ever gotten that far. I figure you've earned some Q&A before you bleed out.
I dropped to my knees. I could feel myself shutting down. He crouched beside me, eyes calm like we were talking over coffee. I don't give a shit about your Q&A.
That was rude. Anyway, this place, it's a service. It's marketed as a luxury hunt. The clients are the kind of people who can buy anything, except the thrill of chasing something that can fight back, and I mean really fight back. We give them that. Hunters get their fun, we take care of the cleanup. No muss, no fuss. And with each hunt they get a nice booklet of Polaroids, from the unsuspecting camper or hiker having fun all the way to how they are disposed of. A real photo album exclusive, only the best for my dark web customers.
Blood filled my mouth. I spat red into the dirt. You're a killer. Plain and simple.
I'm a host, and like any good host, we protect our clients. We make sure every missing hiker is just another statistic, part of that sweet missing 411 mystery. People love a mystery. Well, maybe not a mystery to you anymore. And our little piggies we have stashed away. Well, they make quick work of a body we throw them, and they never complain. Best employees ever. Did you know it only takes hours to completely erase someone? They'll eat everything. It's quite the sight. But I digress. Now, if one of our clients ever gets stupid enough to cross me, I've got enough dirt to make sure they fall with me. Mutual destruction. It keeps everyone cooperative.
My vision blurred at the edges. He looked down, pressed on my wound and stood, adjusting his hat.
And darling, don't tell anybody our little secret, okay? Well, I gotta get back to business. And don't worry, you'll already be gone by the time you get to meet the piggies.
He stepped into the shadows and walked away without looking back. Somewhere in the distance, the pig screamed again, and then everything went black.
Chief Davis leaned against the hood of his cruiser, the night pressing in around him. Somewhere deep in the trees, the last flames of the camp hissed and spat. He didn't bother to go back for her. He didn't need to. The shot had been clean. She was gone. For a moment, he just listened. The pigs grunting low in their pen, a coyote yipping somewhere on the ridge. The sounds of the land going back to normal, cleaning itself, as if nothing had ever happened. This business went back before the chief was born. His daddy ran it before him alongside Uncle Raymond. Both lawmen, one sheriff, one FBI. That's how they got their hooks into more than just this patch of backwoods. They had reach. But Davis was the one who scaled it, turned the occasional hunt into a year-round operation. More clients, bigger money, better cover. His old man liked to keep it local. Davis thought global. He sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. Now came the tedious part. He'd have to call Ma. Let her know her boys were missing. Maybe spin it as a hunting accident. Hell, he'd need to see the bodies first. He stood there and watched her kick the shit out of his own brothers and still couldn't believe it. He thought about stepping in, was actually almost offended of how fast they went down. In the end, he did nothing but watch. But Gus, that fat bastard, will be pig shit soon. Missing it is then. Truth be told, he was almost relieved. His brothers had been reckless lately, costing him money, like that hiker on the trail, the one he'd found with his throat slit, blood soaking the dirt. Sloppy. He pulled out his phone, thumbing the cracked screen. Took a breath. Tapped the number. "Hey, Ma," he said when she picked up. His voice was calm, almost bored. "I've got some bad news."
And there you have it. A quiet little camping trip gone wrong. I wonder if any of you had any wild camping stories. Bet those would be fun to see. As always, thank you bunches for sticking around and listening, and hope you all have an amazing week. Well, until next time.